Hello, and welcome to Around the Political World with John Ruthman. I am your host, John Ruthman. If you're a fan of the show, make sure to hit the follow button on the top right of Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you are listening at this very moment. When you hit follow, leave a review or share an episode with a friend. It helps other people discover the show, keeps us going, and as I like to remind you each and every day, it expands our base. I want to talk about a variety of issues this morning, important issues. First, Joe Biden's speech yesterday at the LBJ Library proposing reforms to the Supreme Court. Speaker Johnson summed it up very neatly. Dead on arrival, not a chance of a snowball in hell. And I have to tell you bluntly, I understand the theory behind what Joe Biden did, but the practice, I think it's more of a political statement than a real proposal. There is no chance that anyone will approve terms for Supreme Court justices of 18 years. And let me remind you that who is president every 2 years as that happens, well, if it's a conservative Republican or a liberal Democrat, that's how the court is going to go. It's a bad idea, and I don't favor it at all. Then there was the question of whether or not there should be a code of ethics for the Supreme Court. Well, there should be a code of ethics for the Supreme Court, but not imposed by Congress. It should be imposed by the court itself. That's their jurisdiction. And this court should be judged, and judged harshly, if they don't come up with a code of ethics that really works. But that's up to Chief Justice Roberts. Let him speak out. I don't think you're going to hear a peep. If you do, it'll be to oppose Joe Biden's proposals. And finally, the idea of a constitutional amendment that ensures that a president is not above the law. Well, I don't favor a constitutional amendment that says that. Why? Because it's inherent in the nature of the balance of powers. It's up to Congress to take that action. And I think that we learned the lesson in the case of Richard Nixon, where Congress could act and did act. And I think even in the case of Donald Trump, Congress acted, but understand there weren't the votes to do what needed to be done to Donald Trump. So there is a simple necessity here, and that is to understand the balance of power in the United States Senate. I want to talk for a few minutes about the charge being made by J.D. Vance and by President Trump that the Democrats are anti-family. I've never heard such rubbish in my life. Democrats aren't anti-family. Look at all the social legislation that have been passed that benefit families. No, this is a cheap political shot. And by the way, J.D. Vance, well, he keeps opening his mouth and putting his foot right into it. And I have to tell you, it doesn't help the Republicans. Certainly not with suburban women. Certainly not with, and this is more important, thinking Americans. I, in a way, feel sorry for J.D. Vance. We have not had a candidate for vice president make so many slip-ups, frankly, since Spiro Agnew in 1968. But wait, better remind you, Agnew was elected. We better listen to what J.D. Vance has to say. And one other point that was made by the Republicans, they are accusing Kamala Harris of being the most liberal vice president in American history. Nonsense. The most liberal vice president in American history was Henry A. Wallace, who was Franklin Roosevelt's third-term vice president, serving as vice president from 1941 until 1945. Henry A. Wallace, without a doubt, was the most liberal vice president, and I would remind you that is the reason he was not renominated in 1944. A group of Democrats came to Franklin Roosevelt and said, bluntly, this will not fly. We don't want Henry Wallace to be president. Well, clearly, what is being suggested that Kamala Harris is the most liberal vice president is clearly historically wrong. I wish the Republicans would study history a little bit more. And then the question which came up of whether or not San Francisco Democrats, ultra-liberal Democrats, the weird Democrats from San Francisco. Let me first of all tell you, I am a San Francisco Democrat. I am not weird, and believe me, the San Francisco Democrats are really mainstream. Take a look at Dianne Feinstein. Take a look at Willie Brown. Take a look at Gavin Newsom. These are not extreme, ultra-liberal. These are people who have ideas and have the votes to implement them. And that's because the people of San Francisco empower them. And let's talk about Sophia Nelson, the Yale classmate that with Mr. Vance, who offered a collection of emails that he sent her, which frankly are very disturbing all the way around. Look, when you write something down or you make a statement, no matter how many years pass, those views reappear. And certainly in the case of Sophia Nelson, who is transgender, who is somebody who is clearly close to Mr. Vance, when she speaks out, we ought to listen. One wonders about Senator Vance in terms of what he really believes, or whether he's willing to sacrifice his beliefs for political advancement and indeed power. These are questions which will be answered in the days and weeks ahead, without any doubt. And what does it mean about the Democrats, who are now looking for a vice presidential candidate? That is to say, Kamala Harris is looking for a vice presidential candidate. The answer is that eventually she will choose, sometime probably in the next week, and that candidate will stand on the stage with Senator Vance, and they will debate the issues of the day. I don't know if there'll be one debate or more, but it is certain that the record of the vice presidential candidates will play a huge role in this campaign. Interestingly enough, the fact that Kamala Harris is 59 years old dilutes the Republican urge to use age as a barometer for having a job, like President of the United States. And there is no doubt that with Donald Trump's age, he's close to 80, that will be an issue, but not as the Republicans envisioned it. No, this is a fascinating time, fascinating issues. Every day there is something, and you and I will be monitoring it as best we can until November 5th. I am John Rothman. Thanks for tuning into another episode of Around the Political World. Please make sure to follow along. Let me know your thoughts on the show by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts and sharing an episode with a friend or colleague so we can continue to grow and expand, which is, of course, our goal. And, of course, you can interact with me, as many of you are, on Facebook and on LinkedIn. And I want to say a special word of thanks to the wonderful producer of this program, Go-Go Zoger, who does such a great job each and every day. I am John Rothman. This is Around the Political World with John Rothman, and I will be back tomorrow. Have a great day.